The rain in the city didn't just fall, it felt like it was trying to wash the people away. Everyone was in a hurry, dodging puddles and checking their watches, too busy to notice the man sitting on the damp sidewalk. He wore an old, oversized military jacket that had seen better decades, and his hands, trembling slightly from the cold, were carefully arranging a few dozen wilted daisies into small bundles.
This garden is
Subscribe if you're the kind of person who stops for those who are often ignored.
It really is. I could stay
To the
here
thousands
all
of
evening.
commuters passing by, he was just part of the urban landscape, a smudge of gray against the concrete. They saw the dirt under his fingernails and the way he talked to himself in a low, gravelly whisper, and they looked away. Some even crossed the street to avoid him, as if poverty were something you could catch by breathing the same air. Among the crowd was Sarah, a high-powered executive whose life was measured in billable hours and stock options. She was running late for a merger meeting that would define her career. As she hurried past, her expensive silk umbrella clipped the man's shoulder, knocking a bundle of his flowers into a muddy gutter. Like this video if you believe a person's worth isn't defined by their clothes. The man didn't yell. He didn't ask for money. He simply looked down at the ruined petals with a look of profound, quiet heartbreak.
Breathtaking.
"I'm so
I know,
sorry,"
I could
he
stay here
whispered,
forever.
not to Sarah, but to the
coffee
flowers.
Is excellent too.
Sarah paused. Something about the sound of his voice, a voice that sounded like it hadn't been used for anything but prayer in a long time, made her stop. She looked at him, really looked at him, and saw the row of faded medals pinned to the inside of his jacket. He wasn't just a man on the street, he was a soldier who had once stood tall for a country that had now forgotten his name. "How much?" she asked, reaching for her leather handbag. The man looked up, his eyes milky with age but shining with a sudden, flickering hope. "They aren't for sale, ma'am," he said softly. "I'm just waiting for her. Today is our anniversary, and I promised I'd bring the best of the garden." Sarah looked at the wilted, bargain bin daisies and then at the shivering man. She felt a pang of guilt that hit harder than any corporate loss. She reached into her bag, pulled out $100 bill, and tried to press it into his hand. "Take this. Get some lunch. Get some better flowers." The man gently pushed her hand away. "Money can't fix a broken promise, miss. But thank you for stopping. Most people, they look right through me, like I'm already a ghost." Sarah watched him go back to his task, humming a tune that sounded like a lullaby. She checked her watch. She was 10 minutes late. Her phone was buzzing with frantic texts from her boss. But as she turned to leave, she noticed a small, laminated card that had fallen from the man's pocket when she bumped him. "Subscribe if you value the power of a promise kept." She picked it up. It wasn't a veteran's ID or a bus pass. It was a photograph of a young man in a crisp uniform standing next to a woman in a white dress, both of them beaming with a radiance that could light up a dark room. On the back, in elegant, fading cursive, were the words, "To my David. No matter where the world takes you, I will be waiting at the corner of 5th and Main. Bring the daisies, and I'll bring the smile. Love, Clara." 1974. Sarah looked up. The man, David, was still there, clutching his muddy flowers, staring at the empty street corner with a devotion that defied time, logic, and the biting wind. He wasn't waiting for a person who was coming, he was keeping a promise to a woman who had been gone for 20 years. He spent every anniversary on this cold corner, offering flowers to strangers in the hope that someone might understand the way of a life lived for someone else. Like this video if you believe that true love never truly dies. The realization shattered Sarah's world. She looked at her phone, the emails, the deadlines, the important meetings, and realized they were all just noise. She sat down on the wet pavement next to him, ignoring the stains on her designer suit. "Tell me about her," Sarah said. David's face transformed. For the next hour, the city disappeared. He told her about Clara's laugh, which sounded like wind chimes, and how they used to dance in the kitchen to the radio. He told her about the letters he wrote from the foxholes, and how the thought of her waiting at 5th and Main was the only thing that kept his heart beating when the world was on fire. By the time he finished, the sun was trying to peek through the clouds. Sarah realized that while she had everything, she actually had nothing. She had standards for her career, her coffee, and her clothes, but she had forgotten to have standards for her soul. She had become someone who saw a person as a nuisance rather than a story. She didn't go to her meeting. Instead, she walked with David to the local shelter, made sure he had a warm bed, and used her important connections to ensure his veteran benefits were finally processed. We often think that the world treats us based on what we have, but the truth is deeper. The way you treat the invisible people in your life says everything about who you are when no one is watching. If you accept a life of coldness and hurry, that is the life you will lead. If you demand a life of empathy and honor, you will find it, even on a rainy sidewalk. Comment honor if you stayed until the end to remember David's story. Subscribe if you choose to live a life of high standards and even higher compassion. Your life reflects your standards.